From the blood-soaked sands of the arena, a figure emerged who would ignite the greatest slave rebellion in Roman history. He was Spartacus, a name synonymous with freedom, defiance, and an unwavering spirit that challenged the very foundations of the mighty Roman Republic. This isn't just a story of revolt. It's a saga of courage, strategy, and the brutal realities of an empire built on the backs of the enslaved. Imagine Rome in the 1st century BCE, a republic at the height of its power, yet teeming with internal strife, vast wealth disparities, and an almost unimaginable number of slaves, perhaps a third of Italy's population. These weren't just domestic servants. They were the engine of the economy, toiling in mines, on vast agricultural estates, and, terrifyingly, trained for combat in gladiatorial schools. It was from one such school, in the bustling city of Capua, that the spark of rebellion would fly. The year was 73 BCE. Amongst the hardened gladiators of Lentulus Batiatus's Ludus, a Thracian warrior named Spartacus, alongside Gauls like Crixus and Ennomaus, plotted an audacious escape. These men, condemned to fight to the death for Roman entertainment, chose instead to fight for their lives. Their initial plan was betrayed, but around 70 to 78 gladiators, armed only with kitchen knives and whatever implements they could seize, broke free. They fought their way through the streets of Capua, their desperate courage earning them a wagon load of gladiatorial weapons and armor from a passing convoy. This was no mere prison break. It was the birth of an army. Their immediate refuge was the imposing, dormant volcano of Mount Vesuvius. From its craggy slopes, they surveyed the fertile plains of Campania, a region ripe for plunder and recruitment. Rome, initially, dismissed them as a band of common brigands. Praetor Gaius Claudius Glaber was dispatched with a force of some 3,000 militiamen, not professional soldiers, to quickly quell the disturbance. Glaber's forces blockaded the single known path up Vesuvius, believing they had the rebels trapped. They underestimated Spartacus. Compelling historical fact 1. Spartacus demonstrated remarkable ingenuity, lacking conventional siege equipment. His men fashioned ropes and ladders from the wild vines growing abundantly on Vesuvius. Under the cover of darkness, they silently descended the unguarded side of the volcano, outflanking Glaber's unsuspecting legions. The surprise attack was devastating, routing the Roman force and seizing their camp, weapons, and provisions. This victory sent a chilling message to Rome. This was no ordinary banditry. A formidable leader had emerged. The victory at Vesuvius served as a powerful beacon. Word spread like wildfire through the slave quarters and rural estates. Thousands, oppressed and brutalized, flocked to Spartacus's banner. Not just gladiators, but runaway slaves, impoverished farmers, shepherds, and rural laborers, men, women, and children, joined the burgeoning force. This diverse multitude, spanning Thracians, Gauls, Germans, and various Italian peoples, swelled the rebel ranks to an estimated 70,000 to 120,000 individuals by the winter of 73–72 BCE. Spartacus, Crixus, and Ennomaus, now leading a proper army, began to forge these disparate groups into a cohesive fighting force, training them in Roman military tactics with the very weapons they had captured. Compelling historical fact 2. The composition of Spartacus's army was far more varied than popular imagination often portrays. It wasn't just a band of gladiators. It was a vast, multi-ethnic assembly of the dispossessed, united by their shared suffering and a thirst for freedom. This diversity, whilst a source of strength in numbers, would also become a challenge to unity and strategic direction. Over the next year, Spartacus's army swept through southern Italy, inflicting a series of humiliating defeats upon Roman praetorian armies. Praetor Publius Varinius and his lieutenants, Furius and Cassinius, were repeatedly outmaneuvered and vanquished. The rebels spent the winter of 73–72 BCE in the region of Thurii, meticulously preparing for the next campaign. Spartacus, a brilliant tactician, understood that their ultimate survival lay not in conquering Rome, but in escaping Italy altogether, perhaps over the Alps, to return to their homelands. However, internal divisions began to surface. Crixus, with his contingent of Gauls and Germans, favored continued raiding and plundering in southern Italy, perhaps even a direct confrontation with Roman cities. Spartacus, ever the pragmatist, saw the futility of such a prolonged engagement against the full might of Rome. This strategic disagreement led to a fateful split. Crixus, with approximately 30,000 men, broke away and moved towards Apulia. Compelling historical fact 3. This internal schism proved disastrous. In 72 BCE, the Roman Senate, now gravely concerned, dispatched two consular armies, led by Lucius Gellius Publicola and Gnaeus Cornelius Lentulus Claudianus. Gellius engaged Crixus's forces near Mount Garganus, decisively defeating them. Crixus was killed, and his men were slaughtered. In a poignant act, Spartacus, upon hearing of his comrade's death, avenged Crixus by defeating Gellius's legions and then forcing 300 captured Romans to fight to the death as gladiators in a macabre funeral game, a stark reversal of their usual roles. Spartacus then turned his attention to Lentulus, defeating him soundly. With both consular armies broken, the path north seemed open. Spartacus marched his forces towards the Alps, seemingly on the verge of escape, but for reasons still debated by historians, perhaps a lack of sufficient transport, the sheer logistics of moving such a vast, diverse population across the mountains, or renewed dissent amongst his followers who preferred to stay and plunder. Spartacus inexplicably turned south again, heading towards Lucania. This was a critical strategic blunder, drawing him deeper into the Roman heartland and away from potential freedom. The Roman Senate, now in a state of near panic, realized the gravity of the situation. They bypassed the usual consular appointments and bestowed extraordinary powers upon Marcus Licinius Crassus, the wealthiest man in Rome, and a formidable, ruthless politician. Crassus was given 6 legions, approximately 30,000 to 35,000 men, and immediately set about restoring discipline to a demoralized Roman army. Compelling historical fact 4. Crassus was infamous for his brutal measures. He famously revived the ancient and terrifying practice of decimation. After one of his cohorts fled in battle, he ordered 1 in 10 of its men to be executed by their comrades. This horrifying act of collective punishment, not seen in decades, instilled a brutal fear and obedience in his troops, turning them into a disciplined, unyielding force. Spartacus, now heading towards the toe of Italy, Calabria, aimed to cross into Sicily, where he hoped to ignite another slave rebellion. He made a deal with Cilician pirates for transport, but the treacherous pirates took his payment and sailed away, leaving him stranded. Crassus seized this opportunity. He ordered the construction of a massive defensive trench and wall, stretching over 55 kilometers across the narrowest part of Bruttium, modern Calabria, effectively trapping Spartacus's army. This monumental engineering feat was designed to starve and contain the rebels. However, Spartacus, with characteristic audacity, managed to breach Crassus's fortifications during a fierce winter storm, suffering heavy casualties but breaking free of the trap. He now found himself in Lucania, with Crassus in relentless pursuit. Meanwhile, the Senate, still fearful, had recalled Gnaeus Pompey Magnus, fresh from his victories in Hispania, and Marcus Terentius Varro Lucullus, governor of Macedon, with their legions, to converge on Italy. Spartacus was being squeezed from all sides. Realizing his time was running out, Spartacus turned to face Crassus in a final, desperate confrontation. He made a last-ditch effort to attack Crassus directly, hoping to kill the Roman commander and demoralize his forces. In the ensuing Battle of the Sila River, in Lucania, Spartacus fought with legendary bravery. He reportedly killed 2 centurions with his own hand and cut his way towards Crassus, but was ultimately overwhelmed. Ancient accounts suggest he fell fighting amongst his men, though his body was never definitively identified amongst the thousands of dead. The rebellion was crushed. The vengeance of Rome was swift and brutal. Thousands of rebels were slain on the battlefield. Of those who survived, approximately 6,000 were captured. Crassus, in a chilling display of Roman power and a stark warning against future insurrections, ordered their crucifixion along the Appian Way, the main road connecting Capua to Rome. 4 kilometers. The gruesome spectacle of dying slaves served as a silent, horrifying monument to Rome's unyielding authority. Compelling historical fact 5. The crucifixion of 6,000 slaves along the Appian Way was not merely punishment. It was a deliberate, public spectacle designed to terrify any who might contemplate rebellion. The bodies remained on the crosses for months, a grim testament to the fate awaiting those who dared to challenge Rome. The immediate aftermath saw Pompey, arriving late, claim credit for extinguishing the last embers of the revolt. Much to Crassus's fury, this rivalry would fuel the ambitions of both men, ultimately leading to their uneasy alliance in the First Triumvirate, shaping the future of the Republic. The Spartacus Rebellion, though militarily a failure, had a profound psychological impact on Rome, exposing the fragility of its internal order and the deep-seated fears of its ruling elite. Spartacus himself vanished into legend. His body was never found, allowing his story to transcend mere historical fact and become a powerful myth. He became a symbol of resistance against oppression, inspiring countless generations, from Enlightenment philosophers to modern revolutionaries. His rebellion, a desperate struggle for freedom against overwhelming odds, remains one of history's most compelling tales of human courage and the enduring fight against tyranny. The gladiator who shook Rome may have fallen, but his spirit of defiance continues to echo through the ages.